Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. This week we have 3 brand new movies with 3 brand new reviews that are all playing in theaters right now. This week on the show, Payback is a Beast. Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega star in Death of a Unicorn. Don't let her in the new horror film, The Woman in the Yard. Then finally, Human Traffickers Beware. Jason Statham is here in The Working Man. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows, what? A roar and a bursting of flames. The Movie Wire podcast.
There it is.
We just need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
Father-daughter duo Elliot and Ridley hit a unicorn with their car and bring it to a wilderness retreat of a mega-wealthy pharmaceutical CEO in Death to a Unicorn.
This entire nature preserve was donated by the Leopold. It's truly untouched by man.
Spotted any big game on the way in.
The fuck was that? Must be moose mating season or something.
Aren't you the most magnificent thing?
Unicorns used to be seen like these divine monsters because people fully believe that they could heal literally anything.
It's an opportunity for immortality. We have a moral imperative to harvest every last one.
Fuck. They're gonna kill us.
Don't move. Called it. There's no negotiating with monsters.
You know, there's something about Paul Rudd running away from a mystical, bloodthirsty unicorn down a hallway holding a unicorn horn that screams appeal. In the new film, written and directed by Alex Sharfman in the first big screen release by A24, Sharfman takes an idea and merely scratches the surface with it. We can see from its ridiculous premise, its fun premise, that it really wanted to be the next Cocaine Bear. But what we get is almost like a comedic dark tone from 2002's Death to Smoochie, just with less jokes landed to make it feel like it's having fun with itself, along with ideas that feel like Sharfman took them from different movies, such as a long medical white tunnel that a creature on a medical bed is transported as we saw in E.T., Paul Rudd sneaking around a vehicle to a creature bigger than him as we saw in Jurassic Park. And there's a few more in this movie that really do feel like a copycat idea, all of which isn't about the situations or the scenes or the props, but rather how these scenes are shot. That reminded me of a Spielberg inspiration. And that's not a compliment here, because when it feels too familiar, it takes away from the unique premise that Sharfman has written. It doesn't feel as fresh as it should, and it takes away from the awe of seeing a unicorn with fangs on screen. Now, Death of a Unicorn stars Paul Rudd as Elliot, who plays an attorney, and Jenna Ortega as his daughter Ridley, who have to make a trip up to a greedy billionaire's family estate far in the woods. Odell recommends Elliot to be the one to handle his last will and testament after he passes, to make sure that his wife and son Belinda and Shepard, played by Tay Leone and Will Poulter, are taken care of, along with his business. But Odell wanted to have his family see Elliot's entire family's strength after Elliot's wife passed away. This is Elliot's test to make sure that he's financially secure and he has his daughter taken care of. On the way to the estate, Elliot and Ridley accidentally hit a unicorn. Then they try to put it out of its misery. Then they do what anybody that hits a unicorn would do, which is put it in the back of the car and take it with them to the billionaire's estate, because we wouldn't have a movie if they didn't. Now, Death of a Unicorn, it's so easy to really push myself to really want to like this movie. Even as I was writing the review, I wanted to look past the flaws because the idea is a fun idea, and the movie does have some great moments in it. But then it's outweighed by a movie that doesn't go far enough in comedy to make it feel fun. It doesn't go far enough in tense moments to make us feel threatened. It doesn't go far enough to allow us to really explore these unicorns to make us feel curious. This is where Alex Sharfman should have called in some help from some rewrites or have another director execute the vision. We can see the premise of what Sharfman was aiming for, but this is a movie that is going to be memorable solely based on premise. Death of a Unicorn is a movie where I can't tell what it really wanted to be. An amplified B-movie, family drama, comedy. It plays with so many ideas in the sandbox. There's no real focus to what it wants to be, and I was trying to cling to something to just try and have a good time with it. And I leaned more into the family drama mixed with a dash of monster horror. But the one thing that really does grab us at attention is the characters, mainly Grant Paltrow-Leone and even Anthony Carrigan, who plays Griff, a butler-type character, who gets most of the fun, safe comedic chuckle moments that actually do work. And Carrigan does a great job here. He's one of those characters we look forward to see in the next scene. Just about all of these characters are animated and they're interesting. But then we get Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. Now, Ortega does fine here. She plays a kid that lost her mom. I get it. She plays it safe. But then we get Rudd, our main character, who is the least interesting of them all. Even taking into consideration that he's a lawyer, a single dad, somebody that lost his wife, we can take all that into account. But the script, we can tell, wants something more for this character. The movie really doesn't do anything for Rudd to work with. And Rudd is such a subtle actor in style, there's no improvisation. It puts Rudd's range on display and it doesn't help him. This was a safe performance. It was an uninteresting performance. And at times, almost a chore to watch. And this isn't Rudd's fault completely. The material doesn't give him anything to work with, and Rudd, in a display of limited range, makes this just a linear performance. During the entire runtime, I kept thinking this was a complete miscast, because we are almost expecting a fun Rudd character here. What makes Rudd's performance noticeable is the fact that all the other characters are outranging him, and we can feel they are just dancing around him and doing circles when it comes to their performance and delivery. It feels like Rudd's character is a side character that is jumping in front of the camera saying, "Look at me, I'm the important one." Now, when we have scenes with our unicorns, they are well done, except with some questionable editing towards the climax, where we have a chase scene inside our estate during the nighttime. But seconds later, when our characters exit the house, it's sunny and bright, like it's the middle of the day. This kind of editing is sloppy. We have a couple of these sloppy mistakes, but in this instance, it almost helps the movie. It actually worked in this case, because when we actually see these CGI unicorns, seeing them in the light actually does add to a sense of wonder, versus just seeing them snarl their teeth in the dark. The unicorns are handled well enough to actually have us curious outside of the horror elements, including how and when they're around electricity and electronic devices, they get interrupted, or we see a purple haze in the sky. None of this is really truly explored, and it sets itself up well enough where it doesn't need to be, but has just enough wonder to grab our attention. These are elements that really do work and adds a curious build to our story. Sharfman does a good job with adding a build of wonderment. These movies are short inserts, but they are just enough to slingshot our attention back into the movie where it's needed. For Alex Sharfman's first film, it's an admirable attempt, and there is some promise here. It looks good, the tone is attractive, even though misguided given the material, it's still a fun movie to look at. But our main problem here is that writing just doesn't go far enough. It's mere surface level. Death of a Unicorn is a movie that many will flock to, anticipating a goofy, fun time, and anticipate another self-aware, amplified B-movie like Cocaine Bear. And others will enjoy it for its pure uniqueness. It is hard for me to say I didn't enjoy this film because it has moments that really does shine, but it's one of those movies in reflection that I say I wanted more. This movie could have been more. It is also one of those rare occasions where I say this movie needed more hands in the creative cookie jar to make it all flow together. Death of a Unicorn is just a near miss for me at 2.5 stars.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure to check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
A little bear goes a long way. And that's the truth. In Paddington in Peru, even though innocent enough, this bear isn't challenged enough to do something different, receiving 2.5 stars. Espionage is deadly. Marriage is deadlier. And again, ain't that the truth? In Black Bag, which was a stylish mystery thriller and so far one of the best movies of the year, receiving 3.5 stars. Remember, don't forget to breathe. In Utter Boredom, in Last Breath, that received 2 stars. Romance is Dead in the surprising rom-com horror slasher film Hard Eyes, that just like love, you never know when you're gonna fall in love, but I fell in love with Hard Eyes, receiving 3.5 stars. But he hasn't called me since. Missing, Cosmic Force of Hope of Holiday Cheer, last seen in the North Pole. This tagline should have been changed to Please Miss Red 1. This is yet another vehicle for the same old fucking Dwayne Johnson character we have seen in every other fucking movie. It's just with this one, nothing interesting happens. This was a lump of coal for the holidays, receiving 1.5 stars. In this house, there is a presence that took me by surprise and a supernatural movie that's emotional and thought-provoking that doesn't feel like the need to entertain and add scares. In Presence, that received 3.5 stars. You can't break up with your past, and only a couple months in, and it's so far the worst movie of the year, and it didn't just hurt, it was excruciating pain. In Love Hurts, which received 1 star. Y'all Need a Pilot in the cliche recycled bald-headed thriller Flight Risk, which was a risk to your wallet, so wait for streaming, receiving 1.5 stars. Part Dog, Old Hero, and Dog Man that I just reviewed. Maybe we need a hero to at least have kids' movies in theaters long enough to give them an experience. But anyway, Dogman was a hyperactive but landed a great message for kids and adults, receiving 3 stars. Remember Who You Are in this follow-up to the 2019 CGI remake of The Lion King in Mufasa. That was an improvement, but still felt like a lazy storyline like another Lion King straight-to-video release, receiving 2.5 stars. Find someone just for you in Companion that answered all my questions if I should get a sex robot. And for that, I thank this movie and give it 3.5 stars. The missing half star is for pure disappointment that I can't buy a sex robot. Faye makes monkeys out of all of us in Better Man, and one of the most engaging and unique music biopics in recent memory, receiving 3.5 stars. And finally, When the Moon is Full, the legend comes to life in Wolfman, in a completely neutered remake, receiving 2 stars. Make sure you check out those reviews, and while you do, don't forget to hit follow and subscribe, and please don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Now, before we get into the last set of reviews, there is a podcast that I religiously listen to each and every week, and that's with Dan over at the Casting Views podcast. Not only do I listen to it, but I do tend to stop by from time to time each and every month to visit for our pilot views episode. Make sure you hit subscribe, follow. The link to the Casting Views podcast will be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from Dan over at Casting Views now.
Fancy taking a humorous trip down a random topic each week? You do? Well, you're in luck. Casting Views, presented by me, Dan, brings you just that. With topics from the world of technology, entertainment, and everyday life, there's bound to be a topic that's going to inform and amuse. Catch Casting Views every Sunday on all listening platforms now.
Levon Cade left his profession behind to work construction and be a good dad to his daughter. But when a local girl vanishes, he is asked to return to the skills that made him a mythic figure in the shadowy world of counterterrorism. Jason Statham stars in A Working Man.
So listen, today's gonna be hard. Let's all go home with the same amount of fingers that we came with. Let's get it. When my wife passed and I left the Royal Marines, a lot of people would have given up on me. You gave me a job. You were patient with me. You, Carla, Jenny, you're my family. Excuse me, it's not your business.
I'm good, boss.
Levin, was that some military shit?
Hey, you didn't see anything.
Just get my back if I ever need it. Jenny's missing.
She went out with her friends on Friday.
The police don't have the resources to work these cases. They take a report and forget about it.
Please, find our daughter. Where's the girl?
You a cop?
You wish I was a cop.
So these guys are next level.
Look at those bricks. You ain't a cop. You're a working man.
That's right. Let's play. This isn't just some kidnapping. This is human trafficking. Remember Gunny?
Your blind war buddy that doesn't know he's blind?
That's the one. You shot a foot to the left, I'll be dead.
I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. I will be your weapon sommelier for this evening. This is the real beast here, M14. Pulled direct from Saddam's palace. Then I added a Bluetooth scope.
Where is she?
There's a special place, high rollers only. They can do anything as long as they pay.
Gangs, the mob, corrupt government officials, they're all involved in human trafficking. You're in the payroll too.
You killed your way into this. You're gonna have to kill your way out of it.
Figured as much.
All of this is for a girl.
I'm not stopping until I bring her home.
That's for slapping that woman.
That woman was my wife. That's for slapping your wife.
Who are you? What are you?
Now, when walking into a Jason Statham film, we pretty much know what we're going to get. A blue-collar character that is hired to kick some ass or is set out for revenge and kick some more ass, with a plot that just lingers in the background as a mere afterthought. But this is where I thought it might be a little different, with writers such as Sylvester Stallone behind the wheel. Since Sylvester Stallone has proven himself to be a good writer with work such as the Rocky films, Cliffhanger, Rambo, but as I was walking out of this film, I remember he also wrote The Expendables, which was okay, and the 2013 film Homefront that also starred Jason Statham. He also teamed up with our writer-director David Ayer, writer of the original 2001 Fast and Furious and 2001's Training Day. Now, with these two writers with a proven track record of some decent films in the writing aspect, we don't get anything different than what we would expect from a Statham movie, except what seems like even more cliches. The film's storyline is so convoluted to situational segmented action scenes borrowed from superior action thrillers like Taken and Rambo. Levon Kane's transition from humble construction worker to one-man army battling Russian mobsters feels less like character development and more like a checklist of pure cliches. I could almost feel Stallone hard at work typing this screenplay with the studio executives hovering over his shoulder, swinging a sock full of nickels, striking him, saying, "No, Rocky, this is a Statham picture. Write dumber." A working man does something that I haven't seen in quite a while, which is look better and more stylish as the movie goes on, but sounds more stupid, cliche, and more, how do I say it? Batman and Robin, overacted as it progresses. Batman popped into my head while watching this movie because at one point, one of the bad guys is dressed like the Penguin, which brings me to another eye roll point. Is not only is this a copy of other Jason Statham picture, but we get villain designs from other movies. We have a design that looks like the Penguin. We also get a villain that's dressed like Judge Doom from Roger Rabbit. And if you ever wanted a Penguin and Judge Doom crossover movie, this is as close as you will get. But in a way, to an extent, I actually thought the the overly done villains were fun, and at times cartoonish fun, even hinting at a return in a sequel for one of our villains. There's a cartoonish quality and fun factor here, where we know this movie isn't taking itself seriously, but at the same time, when we have a Statham movie run for 2 fucking hours, this is a movie that David Ayer, we can tell, wanted us to take it seriously. There's only so much Statham before it becomes too much Statham. There's only so many ways we can see Statham kick, punch, and shoot someone. But here, again, Ayer knows this. We have to follow the normal formula in a movie like this. A working man should have just been a montage of places Statham has been and the costumes he puts on. It's almost like it flows like a Dr. Seuss poem. I will kick his ass in a saloon in a suit. I will kick his ass like a dad wearing plaid. But I will not be original, Statham. No, I will not. We can feel David Ayer attempt to make each and every fight feel fresh. There is an attempt here by adding new costumes, inserting a new villainous thread, adding appealing settings. Now, between the villains and the settings, which I did enjoy, it reminded me of a Joel Schumacher film. There's an appeal to the way the movie looks. As we get into the final act, we come to realize it's just merely a distraction from the lack of story. The story of a working man revolves around Jenny Garcia, played by Ariana Rivas. And when I say revolves, I mean she is kidnapped in the beginning, we get a brief appearance in the middle, and we don't see her till the end of the movie. Jenny is the daughter of Jason Statham's boss, Joe Garcia, played by Michael Pena, in a performance that won't be one of his finest moments on his IMDb resume. Now, this is where the movie doesn't try and steer away from the Statham formula, and some will argue if it should. I would say if you're going to have a 2-hour fucking long Statham movie, the answer is yes. It should steer away from the formula, where we are introduced to the conflict and the motivation of Statham's character, the kidnapping of Jenny. We see a very short interaction somewhere in the middle that Jenny could have escaped, but then she becomes an action star at the end. Insert eye roll and a couple of come the fuck ons. There is no real mention of the real conflict the movie presents to the audience. It's just pretty much ignored. David Ayer is more concerned on how to set up the next action scene versus keeping an audience engaged into the balance of action versus story. When we go long amounts of time without being reminded of stakes, this is what takes us out of the movie. Even with the scene in the middle with Jenny locked up, they might as well have just let that crap out and had more of a 2008 Taken feel. But since David Ayer does include this, we think we will check in with Jenny's to remind us of the stakes. But sadly, we don't. A working man just tends to throw in characters as a slingshot for Statham to get back into the fight. Every time we are introduced to a new character or friend of Statham's, they say their cheesy motivational lines that always end with lines such as, I don't know, "You got this, brother," or something along those lines. It feels like a boxing match that the coach pushes you back into the ring after giving you a motivational speech. These characters mean nothing other than to give an artificial emotion, to feel like we have stakes in the game. Now, it's hard to review A Working Man because, to its credit, you do know what you're getting into when you buy a ticket to a Statham movie. And this is something that fans of his will most likely enjoy. You get your one-liners, you get the action, you get the Statham stare that peers deep into your dark soul, and you wonder if he's gonna jump out of the screen and kick your ass. A Working Man, if you're a Jason Statham fan, you will probably enjoy this movie because it doesn't steer too much off course, and it feels like a big-budget Statham movie. But for me, I found it a chore to get through. If you take away the fancy cinematography, colorful villains, A Working Man just feels like watching a fight at the bar where you don't know why it started or where it's going, so you just get out of there and leave. And can I just say, with a shot at the climax where we have a big family sitting at the dinner table with a single box of Fruity Pebbles between all of them, what the fuck is that all about? I'm giving A Working Man 1.5 stars. A mysterious woman repeatedly appears in a family's front yard, oftenly delivering chilling warnings and unsettling messages, leaving them to question her identity, motives, and the potential danger she might pose in The Woman in the Yard.
Mommy, are you gonna have a good day today or a bad day?
I just feel so sorry.
Now that Daddy's dead, are you still gonna live here?
You know what? I don't know.
Ooh, pity me.
What's in these? What am I tasting? Doritos? I like it. Hey, Mom, there's a woman in the yard.
Who is that?
I don't know.
Where'd she come from?
I don't know that either. Maybe she's dead.
Mama!
Come here, baby. It's nothing to be scared of, okay?
Daddy will know what to do.
All right.
Hello? Can I help you? My husband will be back very soon.
We both know you're not coming. I don't come unless I'm called. Today's the day.
Why is your face covered?
How did she get here?
Mama, I think she's closer.
Hey, you got 10 seconds to get off my property. You children are such darlings. Ripe enough to eat. Who is this woman, huh? I am trying to protect you.
Close the blinds, Kate. She needs the light to make a shadow. Come on.
You've been praying for me. Let me help you like you asked me to. Stay away from my family. Today's the day.
Now, I have talked about this in previous episodes and guest appearances about the evolution of horror. We have seen the slasher genre pop back up, and it's done pretty well, especially with the more recent Hard Eyes. But even more so, we have seen some unique films, such as Presence, that I have advertised as not a horror movie. But after watching The Woman in the Yard, it came to me that horror can come in all different forms. And between Presence and The Woman in the Yard is a new level of psychological horror that utilizes horror on the surface but digs deeper into the psyche of psychological pain and asks the viewer to look towards your empathy to generate the horror. If this is a new direction of horror, then this will be always a mixed review for audiences, because not everybody can relate to the material that's being presented on screen. It will rely heavily on the performances and dialogue to convince an audience to feel what is presented. Now, I have said it before on this show that there is nothing more scary than our own fears and our own thought, because we are the ones that feel them. It's empowering, but at times it can be overpowering in emotion. When we are on the outside, especially in a movie where fear doesn't resonate as deeply, especially if it's not done well. And that's part of what makes The Woman in the Yard so captivating in thought. But with that said, what The Woman in the Yard tries to do will also fall victim to what we saw in Presence, is a movie that is marketed as pure horror. But it's deeper than that. It taps into heartache, family drama, family pain, and just like this year's Presence, it won't make us feel good by the time the credits roll. Now, I'm not sure if this style of horror I like, which I think the studios and filmmakers know this. I think they know this is going to be a mixed bag of emotions for audiences. I don't know if this will be successful, but honestly, horror with a message on healing versus a bloodfest, there are some benefits to it, including discussions, to be scared, to have curiosity and mystery, to a symbolic message on healing. Between Presence to The Woman in the Yard, we go from normal horror discussion of what was your favorite kill to how are you feeling. There are space for both to coexist because everybody has their own taste of horror. At times you can find me putting on 2002's Jason X or 1998's Deep Rising because I want some campy horror brainless fun. But for those times where I want to be emotionally invested with some edge, that's what The Woman in the Yard tries to do. The movie stars Danielle Deadweather as Ramona, who has lost her husband from a car accident that she was involved in, while crippling her leg, where she is in a knee brace and crutches while she has to watch her kids, oldest son Taylor, played by Peyton Jackson, and little Anley, played by Stella Kahila. The movie opens up with an introduction of the loss of the Father by Ramona watching a video of her and her husband David, played by Russell Hornsby, talking about the dreams they have for the house and farm that they have purchased, signifying that he has passed on. All in the while, our oldest child David attempts to make breakfast when the power is shut off, signifying finance problems. This also means that all phones were not charged and are dead. Between the farm in the middle of nowhere and no electricity or phones, the movie sets the movie up for a seclusion piece. Now, after David makes breakfast on a gas stove, scrambled eggs and Doritos, which sounds like an amazing meal after 2 a.m., the family notices a lady dressed all in black sitting in the front yard. And I will just leave this here for those that want to discover the movie for themselves. The stresses of the woman in black in the front yard, along with the death of their father, signify an example of death that you can gather with the trailer, with the woman in the yard stating, "Today is the day." And the truth around this will take audiences by surprise, but not so much that the clues our writer Jason Statham, along with director James Statham, put in include a brilliant Easter egg clue of a car reflection to a movie theater marquee to the 1958 The Mirror Has Two Faces, along with some backwards letter we see from our young Annie, which I think our director Sarah took some inspiration to the director of the 1958 film Andre Cayete when it comes to messaging. Now, Sarah, who did the more recent Netflix films Carry On, knows how to hold his cards close to his chest and asks the audience to follow him, as we have seen from his films past, including 2009's Orphan, but we can just kind of forget Black Adam and Jungle Cruise. When he has the proper material that's not bubblegum, he knows how to embrace it and present it, especially given our writer Sam Stefanik, who has some flaws in the journey of how we get to the understanding of the story by the end. Even when we have the big reveal, it still feels like we needed more in the first half of the movie to really have an impact in the back half of the film. There isn't enough family build other than just family conflict that are just brief moments. We don't really get to know each individual character other than their mere intent, especially from our Taylor character, who gives an obvious portrayal that he is the man of the house with his father gone and his mother injured. But there is no real depth to the character beyond that. This is a movie that feels like we needed more individual depth to our Taylor or Ramona character to truly feel bought in, and especially for the climax to land. But it stumbles along the way, and our writer Stefanik doesn't know how to really build a foundation for these characters that just doesn't feel situational. And that's the main flaw to The Woman in the Yard, is we feel rushed into getting to the woman dressed in black in the front yard. It's an okay build to that point, but what happens after that is just merely looking out a window. How do we get out of this situation? How do we get out of the situation we're in? All is held back from these characters and conversation and dialogue from Speckenock to not give too much information away to the reveal of who is the woman in black. And this is where we get tempted on the technical insertions with loud noises, the big scary booms to crank up the noise. But here I gotta be honest, I did enjoy the sound design, from the TikToks to the shadowy noises to the background sound effects. All of that does work. It does add to kind of a distraction of what we're feeling on screen for the lack of dialogue. When the dialogue was limp, the sound really did take over to engage me into the environment. But at the same time, it's a handicap. It is a distraction. This does hurt the pacing. It hurts the stakes for the characters, and it hurts the empathy we should feel for each individual character during the reveal. Where it ends up is just feeling empathy for the topic at a human level and not for the characters. The Woman in the Yard misses on build based on the ending result that may turn off most that buy a ticket. But the marketing for this movie, just like Presents, will be disappointing because, like I said with Presents, it's an emotional journey disguised as a horror movie, using a scary object, character, or idea as an advertisement of a protagonist. I admire the attempt. I admire how it made me feel at the end, but at the same time, I should have felt something more. I'm giving The Woman in the Yard 2.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony. Make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.